Okay, so the question is about Kabalá Ma'asit. First of all, the Arizal says few places that Kabalá Ma'asit is forbidden, and it seems that the Rav Jaim Vital, that is like the main student of the Arizal, before he met the Arizal, he was involved in Kabalá Ma'asit.
He was?
He was, and that's why I understand he asked like few times in different occasions the Arizal what's the reason it's not allowed, and the Arizal gave him a few reasons. So let's go over the reasons that he's giving, and then afterwards we'll speak about like different traditions that were dealing with Kabalá Ma'asit. So first of all, the Arizal says that we don't really know like how to do it. Okay, he says that all of the names that we can find in different books have, like, many of them have mistakes, and it's not reliable. Okay, and that's talking about in time of the Arizal. How much more so about for us? Like today, if you say for someone, this is a book from the time of the Arizal, so then he will say, so for sure it's legit. For sure it's But you see, even the Arizal in his time, he said that the books that they had mistakes, and you can't rely on it. So that's one thing. Second thing, that is the most famous, I guess, is that he says that we are not pure. We have the impurity of the dead. We don't have the ash of the red cow. So therefore, when we're not pure, so we can't deal with it. Okay, that was in an answer for the question of Rav Jaim Vital, that he asked, like, how can you say it's forbidden? We see in the Mishnah, in the Gemara, that they were doing that. They did kmeot. So the Arizal answered him that they had the ashes of paraduma, so they were pure, and we don't, so we can't do it because we're not pure. Okay. And last point is that he says that the person that is worthy to deal with it is someone that is in such a high level that even the angel of death is not criticized against him, that like all of the angels, all of the people loves him because he have like just good deeds. There's nothing that no one can say against him. So someone like that is worthy to do Kabalá Ma'asit, but otherwise, no. Okay, that's basically the reasons that are found in the writings of the Arizal. Can speak about that more in different time, but now let's speak about different traditions, except of the Arizal. So there is, first of all, important note from the Vilna Gaon that he brings in one of these commentaries for the Tikkunei Zohar. He writes that to do Kabalá Ma'asit properly, so the person have to know how those names of angels or whatever he's dealing with are receiving their nourishment from the Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. Okay, something like that. That's what he's saying, and that's first condition. Second condition that the Vilna Gaon gives is that the purpose that the person is doing that is not for self-interest, is to help other people, to help Klal Yisrael, not something that is like for himself. Okay. Now, also with that, there is a certain tradition that I heard that it was also from the Vilna Gaon, but it doesn't say that there in the writings of the Vilna Gaon. It's like more of an old tradition that it will be allowed only if it will save like a crowd of Am Yisrael. It seems that it's talking about like minimum amount of minyan of 10 people. like to save like life of 10 people or more, so then it's like that. Then it's enough of a reason to use it. Otherwise, no. There is a story about one of the student of the Vilna Gaon that were in. I'm not sure if it was Hungary. I'm not sure like exactly where there in Europe, like just before the Nazis came, and like they had a doubt what is more dangerous, to move, that everybody, like the whole community, will leave their village and like try to go somewhere, or to stay in the same place because maybe moving is more dangerous. So they had a doubt, and they were using like Kabalá Ma'asit to get an answer, like what is the right thing to do to save the community. So that, like when I heard it, so that was the example that the rabbi that I spoke with gave as like something that it will be like a good enough of a reason to use Kabalá Ma'asit when there's something that is like life of a crowd of a mitzvah. Okay, now.
And what ended up happening there?
I think that they moved and they got to US. It's one of the communities that got to the US.
Oh, wow.
Anyhow, Shalom Aleichem. So the last point is about the tradition of some Sephardi communities from Morocco, from Iraq, that they have all kinds of segulot that it seems like Kabalá Ma'asit. So how does that work? They knew about the writings of the Arizal. So simply they had a different tradition. So even though they had some writings of the Arizal, but they kept the tradition that they had. Okay? So basically before the Arizal, it was something that was quite accepted, seems to be. And many places, many communities, they didn't accept this prohibition that the Arizal came with, and they kept on their tradition. That's the simple answer. More sophisticated answer is that it doesn't really hold, but I'll say it anyhow. Wrote down in one of the books of Rav Yaakov Ades, Shlita, that he had very close relationship and tradition from Rav Kaduri, that was one of those rabbis that came from Iraq, and he was doing all kinds of segulot and kmeot. So he writes that those kmeot, it was not going against the prohibition of the Arizal, because the Arizal said it's not allowed to force the angels to do something. But the way that those segulot worked was asking them to do different things, not forcing them. So if you're not forcing them, so then it's legit. Okay? And there is people that are like trying to go in this line, to do like a Kabalá Ma'asit, but changing the wording of the kamea from like forcing to asking. Now, I happened to meet some of the students of Rav Kaduri Zatzal, and they told me that they saw in their eyes, like kmeot of Rav Kaduri, that it was like the language that he was using in the kamea, it was like forcing the angel. So it doesn't really hold. That's why I said it. But there is a certain approach with it to make this differentiation. There is things that are brought down in the writings of the Arizal himself that looks like Kabalá Ma'asit, a little bit, and then that will be another question of how to relate to that. Like if, like you just said, it's not allowed. So what are you doing here? So one thing is to say, yes, you have those things that are not Kabalá Ma'asit. So the same thing will be like other kmeot and segulot that those righteous people did, that it doesn't fall into the box of the prohibition Kabalá Ma'asit that the Arizal said. So what exactly is the prohibition? it's very hard to say. It's very hard to say. There's no like clear definition. I didn't find a clear definition. So just to finish to close the mark and to connect that to what I said in the name of the Vilna Gaon, it seems to be that the connection with Hashem, the first garment is the name Yud Kei Vav Kei. So when someone knows the connection with the light of Hashem, then everything is good because there's unity. And the problem seems to be, I'm not saying that as a halacha, I'm saying that like that's my understanding right now after my little research about it, that someone that he doesn't know how to make this connection and is using some kind of a force without connecting that to the source of the light, so then it becomes to be like separate entity. So it goes like in line with al worshipping, and then it becomes to be forbidden. But when someone knows what he's doing and he knows how to do this connection with the light of Hashem, and then there's unity and there's no danger. So obviously, as much as you're going out from the inner connection to the external worlds, to the external dimensions, so then it becomes to be more complicated to make this connection, right? As much as you're closer, so the connection is closer, so it's easier. As much as you're going out, it becomes to be harder. So the names of angels that are related to the external worlds, it's much more challenging, and to the point of almost impossible for someone that is not in the highest level to make this connection, and then by definition it creates separation, and then it falls into the prohibition, and then it creates damage in the spiritual worlds, and then a person will suffer unless he will do the tikkun, like we saw that in Sha'ar HaKodesh, the Arizal brings the tikkun for that. What's the reason? Because it's like a sin to create separation. That's what happens when someone is doing a sin. So to do that in the wrong way, without unity, by default it will be a separation, which is sin, which needs tikkun. And then if someone doesn't do the tikkun, is suffering. And I know in person, and I heard in like first hand about more than a few people that they were trying to do all kinds of things like that, and they suffered. Physically, emotionally, spiritually, they suffered. And I don't know why they continued. Maybe it's like addiction, I don't know. But they suffered. I know about people that they suffered, and like all of those different stories about people that are getting crazy and doing things that are, like whatever, all kinds of things like that, and like the danger of Kabalá and like all of those different things is mostly about the Kabalá Ma'asit. That's like a dangerous zone. So it's not something to play with. It's like radioactive materials. If you don't have the right equipment to protect yourself, you don't want to deal with it. You want to stay away. And even someone that he does have the equipment, he does have the knowledge, he knows what he's doing, should be very, very careful, because it's it's serious stuff. And someone that he doesn't take it seriously, so then for sure he's making like a big mistake. Bezrat Hashem. Only blessings for everybody.